Like me, I remember I was 23 when I directed my first commercial, and I'm sitting there and every single person was like at least 10 years older. And, I was in charge of the whole thing. And so I'm thinking like, how can this be? Like, there's just no way.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Just Joe BTS Podcast. Thank you for tuning in to yet another episode here. Today we're going to be talking to Matthew McGuire. Matthew is a film producer working at Everhouse Media, making marketing videos for B2B marketing. He specializes in creating B2B marketing videos for brands that need to better visualize their big idea. So today we're going to hear a little bit about how he got started in the industry, where he's going from here, what drives him every day, and a little bit of advice for anyone who's looking to get into B2B marketing, filmmaking in general, or maybe just starting out and doesn't know where to start. So first of all, Matthew, welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for talking to us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. So tell us a little bit about yourself, right? So we're kind of going on a creativity journey with everyone who's listening here. So some people have no experience, some people have tons of experience, right? We're kind of trying to bridge that gap and teach them a little bit about business as well along the way. So tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you start out? How'd you get to where you are now? What's your story?
Yeah, so I went to Benedictine College in Kansas, and I got a degree in English, which sounds kind of weird for somebody in marketing, but I always knew that I was going to go into filmmaking, and I did some YouTube stuff growing up. My brothers and I kind of like joined YouTube really early on. We made some short films. We kind of rose to fame for a little bit. We had our moment. And then, yeah, I went to college to study English because I wanted to kind of like focus on my storytelling skills, because I knew that, a lot of the camera stuff I just learned already leading up to that point. So, yeah, learned story. And then I got my first job at a film agency in Providence, Rhode Island, and that job kicked my butt. It was hard work. It was like shooting 2 interviews a week and just constant editing and constant traveling, and I did that for like 10 months straight. Like literally gave birth to our first child, our daughter, and then the next day ran to a shoot. Like it was just
oh my
that.
gosh.
It was that stacked. It was that busy. But that was really, really amazing experience to kind of go through and do the grind like as a first job. And then I was recruited by Everhouse to be their film person at their marketing agency. And I've been there ever since.
Wow, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So I have some questions about when you first started. What was your first camera, and why filmmaking? What drew you to that?
Oh my gosh. Well, I never went off on my own since college, but in college I had the Rebel T2i, and I know it was not a great camera at the time, but back in the day, like we shot some pretty successful YouTube videos on the T2i. I mean, like millions. Yeah. We got millions and millions of views in 2011, 2012. And, we did it on this crappy DSLR camera. I eventually invested in the 5D Mark II and shot some stuff on that. But, those cameras, they shoot like 1080p. Like if you think about it these days, it's like, wow, that was a really crappy camera. But it was good. It was like a creative limitation. It was saying the camera doesn't matter, so focus on your storytelling skills. And I made some really, really neat videos in college, just like pushing myself to do it. Made a video about like a possessed doll, and this is like before I even went, out into the world professionally. I'm just doing it for fun. Let's see. T2i. What was the other part of the question?
Why filmmaking? What drew you to that medium over any other creative medium?
Right. So The reason I got into filmmaking is really because of just the influence of my older brothers. We grew up in Southern California, and there wasn't a ton going on. Like, a lot of people were getting into sports, and for some reason, like, my brothers and I just didn't feel like doing football or soccer. So we ended up
Sure.
teaching ourselves and investing in learning how to film. And we put videos together, and like I personally knew that it was what I wanted to do, because every video we put together, every video I worked on, not only was it like the funnest thing I've ever done, but it was like people really enjoyed what we made. They really liked the videos that we made, and people, all around us kind of pushed us to really like pursue that. And I think, I don't know, it's like being on set is probably the happiest I ever am, just at any point. Just being on a set where there's a camera, where there's a lot of people, where there's actors and like busy things going on. It's just, I don't know, it's just where I belong. It's a calling, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I share that sentiment a lot. I have my editing days. I have my, bookkeeping days. I have all of those, right? And the happiest days, the days that I jump out of bed and I don't need coffee to go to work and feel motivated, are those days where I'm on set. It's an amazing feeling. There's this synergy. You play off everyone around you, and it's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. So Matthew, everyone goes through kind of ups and downs as a creator, as a filmmaker, as a business person, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the hardest challenges you've ever encountered in life and in work, and how did you get past those? How did you overcome those challenges?
That's a big question. I feel like there's like personal life challenges with being a filmer, and there's definitely a lot of work challenges, related to that. So I guess, like, personally, I don't know if you would agree with this, but like a hard thing for me is the amount of traveling that filmmaking requires, and maybe we don't want to talk about that. So like, let's think about the kind of challenges. In filmmaking, I would say a lot of people get hung up on the gear. A lot of people get talking about the cameras, and a lot of people, when they're talking about a film, they talk about like tactically the way that they're going to approach it. Like, how am I going to shoot these scenes? Like, what are the scenes going to look like? How am I going to light it? All these things. And I think it's easy to get caught in those details. And I think what a lot of people sort of lack, or what a lot of people neglect to spend a lot of time on, is like more of the storytelling, more of the concept, more of like how the creative meets the strategy of what you're trying to film, right? Because not only are you trying to like make something that looks good, I think we're all trying to do that. And I think like film today is definitely like, the aesthetic has definitely been pushed to an amazing spot. Like, it's a lot of films these days look absolutely stunning.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, that like a big challenge for filmmaking is definitely the storytelling. It's definitely where the art meets the strategy, where it like fulfills the purpose of the video being made in the first place. And so, being at a marketing agency, the way we kind of address that, and the way that I personally address that, is just spending a ridiculous amount of time in pre-production, spending a ridiculous amount of time interviewing people, that hold that information that I need to know, like the strategic points, in order to create something super cool, something really interesting to watch. And I don't know if that answers your question, but it's like pre-production. That is where a lot of magic happens. That's where the rubber meets the road. That's where, like I have this coffee mug that Film Supply sent. It says fix it in pre, find it in post. So like there's definitely this attitude of doing it before you shoot, and like finding the story before you shoot, or having a really awesome approach before you hit the set, that needs to be thought about.
Yeah, absolutely. So, kind of on that same note of things, you brought up pre-production, right, and the importance of pre-production. I feel like there's maybe 25% of the filmmaking community, the privately owned filmmaking community, right? Not the directors guilds and all the rest of them, people who have been in it for years in the business. But let's say the smaller portion, right? Indie filmmakers and things like that. How many people, right, don't even think about pre-production, don't do anything in that area of things, and find themselves lacking on set or in post-production because of that. But what would you say to someone who does a lot of run and gun shooting, right? They do completely guerrilla filmmaking. They can't plan everything in advance. They're shooting maybe, I don't know, reality or, weddings or something like that, where it's very run and gun. It's on the fly. You're finding the story as you're shooting. What's your advice to those people to find their story in their run and gun situation?
So I learned from this guy who owns this company called Muse Storytelling. He specifically focuses on like documentary style filmmaking. So I think there's still an amount of pre-production you can do when you're going into a run and gun style shoot. Like there's still some thinking. Like for example, my brother owns a wedding filming business called True Grain Films, and he recently did this film that won an award, and he shot it in Chicago. It won Best Wedding Video of the Year, and he made a lot of connections through it. But anyway. And there wasn't really like pre-production leading into that, because like a wedding's a wedding. Like you're going there to capture it, you're trying to make it look nice. But I think there's still like, if you can imagine going into a shoot like that and saying, like, what am I gonna do with this video? What am I gonna, like, how can I approach this wedding in a way that like gives it a very, very deep meaning, like actually brings meaning to the film. It's not just a recap video. It's actually something that sort of highlights the beauty and depth and importance of a marriage, a union between two people. And so, I think you can still think about, in general, the video that you are making, and think about your approach and what you want to say with what you're filming, Yeah. Like, could you give me an example of a video that would be like run and gun?
Sure. Let's say you. So for an example, right? I do this. I don't want to give the answer. I want you to tell people.
Sure.
But I show up to a lot of like event filming, right? Let's say you're filming a live event. You don't know what's going to happen during the event. It's somewhat spontaneous. You have a rough outline, similar to a wedding, right? But you have kind of a rough outline of what's going to happen, but it's kind of an ambiguous story. You have to find the story as you're shooting it. What's your strategy? What would you do?
Yeah. Well, I would give some thought about what's happening before I go there. Even if you don't know what's going to happen, there is some level of thinking and planning that you can do ahead of time. For example, there's this event that I shoot every year called Summit. It's put on by this company called Somos. And like when I go in there, I think like, how can I shoot this in such a way that's going to make it really engaging? Like I need to imagine what might be talked about, just doing some form of prepping. And then when I enter, it's like I try to film the experience in the way that I see it, in the way that, being a creative and looking at all the fun, flashy things, that are going on, and just try to film like from my perspective. So I guess like trying to film the way that you see, like in your creative vision, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
trying to give it a new and fresh perspective. Because I think
Nice.
whatever you film, it's going to be a new perspective, outside of reality.
Right. Yeah. No, I like that a lot. Yeah, it's so important for people to find a story, but a lot of times what people are starting out doing is more small spontaneous things where no one's giving them a pre-production budget or anything else, and they're coming up with this on their own. So I think that'll be helpful for people, right? Seeing different ways to think about doing the exact same task that's monotonous maybe when you're starting out. Finding new ways, new perspectives to tell the story. That's good advice. So kind of taking things back again to when you started out, right? You're brand new into filmmaking. I don't know, maybe you're in college, maybe it's before you're in college. Now some mistakes you've made, some things you've grown from, some things you'd do differently. What is the biggest thing you wish you could go back and change, and advice you'd give your younger self? Maybe you're just starting out. What would you tell yourself that would change your, trajectory?
I got to think about that for a second.
Sure. Yeah.
I think when I was starting out, if I could go back and tell myself something that I wish I knew starting out, is I would tell myself that it is okay to screw up. It is okay to fail. It is okay to fall short or, just not hit the mark. And I think there's a lot of anxiety when you feel like everything's going wrong, or that maybe it makes you question that you're not doing what you're meant to do, or you're not, skilled or talented. Like, just, I would tell myself that it is okay, like, to not be perfect. This is a phase, like filmmaking is a hard skill that you learn. It's something that you put in time and you learn how to do it. You learn how to operate a camera. You learn how to expose correctly. You learn how to ask interview questions. Like, these are all things that don't necessarily come naturally to anybody, anyone. It is stuff you learn. Now, also, it would be really important to like recognize what your talents are aside from your skills, and then find ways to utilize those talents, particularly in your filmmaking. Talents are like things that you don't learn, but things that you're just naturally good at. Yeah, because I think there was a lot of stress starting out, just thinking like, wow, I'm literally the worst. I can't do anything right.
Yeah. So kind of playing off of that a little bit, right? There's imposter syndrome. I don't know if you've probably heard of that plenty of times in this business. But tell us, what is imposter syndrome, and what's kind of your way of combating that? What would you tell people to get over imposter syndrome?
Yeah. So imposter syndrome is sort of that sinking feeling that you're not actually good at what you're doing. You're not actually where you're supposed to be. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. You kind of feel like everything you've done is sort of like you've just barely gotten by and somehow it was successful, but you're really not talented, And I think a lot of people suddenly get that feeling. And it always sneaks up. You're like on a set, you're in charge of like 20 people. You like me. I remember I was 23 when I directed my first commercial, and I'm sitting there and every single person was like at least 10 years older. And, I was in charge of the whole thing. And so I'm thinking like, how can this be? Like, there's just no way. But in order to get past that, I don't know, maybe it's humility. Maybe it's just saying like, regardless of what's going on, like what I'm doing is a job. What I'm doing is like leading people is a job. That is a position that you need to do. And it's just a position that you're in. And, when you're filming, I think, like, let's say you're a solo filmmaker and you're just wondering, like, you just see so much amazing stuff online, like just unbelievably beautiful footage, beautiful videos, just super creative ideas. You look at yourself and think, like, how can I possibly ever get there?
Right.
That would definitely hit from time to time. And I think what we all should do, just need to see moments like that as encouragement to say, I'm going to do what they're doing, actually. Like, on my next project, I am going to try to push myself to come up with something out of the box, something new, and, just live to create, live to want to bring that energy to every single project, even if it's run and gun, even if it's boring, even if it's talking head, but to just have that creative energy all the time really helps fight that little voice inside you that says you're not worth it, that you're not
Yeah.
good at this.
Yeah. No, 100%. I agree with you. Yeah, it's something that I've heard from a lot of people, because I talk to a lot of newcomers into the business, people who have been in this for, 50 years or more sometimes, and they're just passionate about what they do, right? But as soon as they go online, it all goes away. They feel like they can't do it anymore. They're never going to be as good as whoever that they just watched that video, right? And I want you to talk a little bit about too what's your strategy with social media, right? Do you use social media? Do you avoid social media? When you're in a creative phase and you're saying, "Hey, I need to write my next project. I need to come up with something new and original." Do you go online and search for inspiration, or do you try to steer clear of that so that you don't get kind of the blinders put on you of I can only do this, or I have to do this, or I'll never be able to make that?
Yeah. Okay. So I want to attack the second question first. Just remind me to talk on social media, but this is like super relevant right now for me. So for every single project, I am extremely aggressive about using a mood board. I firmly believe that it is okay and actually is an important part of the creative process to go out and be inspired, to look at what other people are doing and say, like, what I want to do is like a little bit of that plus a little bit of that. Like, honestly, that's how you actually come up with something entirely new. No artist throughout all time has ever not borrowed from someone else. Like every single form of art has at one point borrowed something from someone somewhere,
Right.
and so I think a mood board is extremely helpful and extremely I would say it really helps you think creatively. Like, now sometimes I just like mood board things in my ordinary life, like, oh, I want to add something somewhere. Oh, I'm just gonna create an entire Pinterest mood board just for this one thing. It's like, it's addictive. It's addicting in the way that it's like that it truly inspires something, like something new. Because it's really hard to come up with something new, and I might dare say, like, sometimes it feels impossible to come up with
Yeah.
something new. But I've learned this habit by just being in marketing, and I work in B2B, which is not inherently like really easy to visualize. If you work in
It's
B2C, it's
usually
like,
very hard. Yeah.
it's super hard, yeah. Like B2C, someone might say, like, oh, I have these headphones. Can you come up with a creative approach to market these headphones? Like, great, okay. These headphones have like clear sound. Okay, clear sound. Let's just roll off that. So we're gonna take an entire concept and position it around just that one feature. And like the whole commercial is just going to be based on one single feature. And like, we're just going to roll with that. We're going to do a metaphor and all that kind of stuff. But for like B2B, it's like there's what I'm marketing, you cannot hold with your hands. you can't see it, you can't feel it, you can't film it. You know, it's just like a service or like a personality or a brand's I don't know, identity or a mission, you know, something like that. And so I've just gotten the habit of uh, being really creative with my mood boards because there's nothing ever currently out there that is a one-to-one match for what's in my head.
Yeah, no, I love that. Could you, just for someone who maybe doesn't know what a mood board is, can you give a brief, like, 2 sentence description of what a mood board is, how people could make one, where you could go, what tools you use?
Yeah. So a mood board is essentially anywhere where you store visual inspiration. And this is you can make a mood board anywhere. You can put it on PowerPoint. You could just plug them in on Microsoft Word, like literally anywhere that can just house a bunch of screenshots is ideal to kind of like see them all in the same spot, to see them all playing off each other, to be able to like categorize them into like certain things that you're seeing. And, you know, I think some people struggle with mood boards because they say like, oh, that's not quite it. Oh, that's not quite it. But you really, it's just sort of an initial reaction. For me, when I go out and I'm looking to put together a mood board for like a product video, product being a service for B2B, you know, I'm looking for little things. Like I know that this video is supposed to be about, I'm just going to give an example. Like, oh, now I need to think of an example. Let's say, okay. So let's say I need to make a video for a school. They're fundraising money. They're trying to get capital to build a brand new college, right? A college that doesn't exist. And they want me to make a video to advertise for this college that doesn't exist, by the way, which means everything that I'm filming, all the kids that I'm filming, the locations that I'm filming don't exist. And so, you know, I'm looking for like how people approach that. And like, actually, I never found anyone that did anything similar to that. So I'm like picking pieces from things that I really like, you know, like what kind of helps people imagine something, what kind of filming approach, what kind of style can I bring forward that kind of like makes you feel like you're seeing something that isn't real but could be real. I know it's really confusing, but I ended up like grabbing a bunch of Wes Anderson screenshots because it was
Amazing
warm,
director.
it's inviting. There's a lot of like really fun camera angles, and there's something about Wes Anderson that never feels like reality. It's like you're watching a storybook of reality.
Yeah.
So I ended up, you know, grabbing a bunch of screenshots and using that as well as kind of looking to find images of like how other people have filmed colleges. Like I used a lot of Midjourney. I used
Nice.
a lot of Midjourney to kind of explore some things that were in my head. Very great tool. We can talk about that later. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was amazing for mood boards. I know a lot of people start out usually doing like Pinterest or something like that. And it's funny because Pinterest has gotten this reputation of being where high school girls go to plan their weddings or whatever, right? And so it has this negative connotation to a lot of guys in the industry. Girls absolutely love it. Every girl that I know who's in film is like, oh, I just go to Pinterest. It's super easy. But yeah, it's good that there's other tools. There's what's the other one that I use all the time?
The one that has film screen grabs.
Yes, it takes things actually from movies.
I gotta remember.
come to me.
Maybe you could just Google it and then we just add that as a plug.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it here.
But I would like to talk about Pinterest because that is...
Yeah, talk a little bit about Pinterest.
Yeah, okay. So the main place that I put together mood boards is in Pinterest. I think it just has the most excellent algorithm for finding references, for finding images. It just has like you could type in anything. Like a lot of what I look up is like space and defense nowadays. And like I'm able to just sort of piece together words like space, defense, aesthetic. And it's really amazing at like showing me a multitude of like animation design, art sketches, like patent sketches, actual photographs, actual videos, animations, 3D. It shows me the entire range of gamut for everything within the space defense aesthetic. So, and oh my gosh, I just can't say enough about Pinterest. Like it is just the best thing that ever happened to my creative process.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that agree with you on that. Um, I personally use Pinterest for more of the aesthetics, right? Because you can usually find screen grabs from movies or certain things, like a little clip from somebody else's video where you're like, hey, I like this. I'm going to utilize this sort of idea or this camera angle. But it's hard to find the right aesthetic places. And Pinterest is, like you're saying, just amazing for all of that, right?
Yeah.
They've done an amazing job of just making it easy to compile stuff too.
Yeah, I think something we should mention as well is a mood board in general. Its purpose is to kind of present the mood of the piece that you're trying to make, right? The feeling that I should get. Like you see a large swath of similar colors, similar color grading, things like that, similar animations or sketches or design. So you should look at a mood board and be able to just feel what it is that you're trying to make all together. And sometimes by making a mood board, that's actually where you discover where you want to go with what you're making.
Yes, I agree. I found that other technology too that we're looking for. The website is Shot Deck.
Shot Deck.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Shot Deck, if you don't know what it is for anyone listening, Shot Deck is basically a mood board tool where you can grab things. People who do color grading use it all the time. People who are in cinematography, directing, all of that. And its biggest asset is that you're pulling from things that already exist, right? So movies, TV shows, professionally produced projects that already exist. And you can pull it in and use a million different shots from a million different movies. They have pretty much everything you can think of. And you can grab something that's the exact look you want, which will help you with your color grading process. You can grab shots that are just different angles of the same scene, things like that. And I know multiple major productions that use it, and then a lot of small productions too. It is a little pricey, but if you're doing enough projects, it's well worth the money. So, yeah. Okay. So wrapping up on that, Matthew, tell me a little bit about social media and your approach to social media. Do you use it? Do you not like it? What do you think about too? This kind of plays into social media. Do you love or hate TikTok and the video revolution that it is causing?
Just it's just a funny topic for me. Working at a marketing agency, you have to stop and realize that you still have to like market yourself, even though you're like part of a group, part of a company, and you're like trying to pour your heart out for the people you work for. I had to remind myself that I still need a portfolio.
Yeah.
Just so people know that what I specifically work on and the things that I make. So my approach to social media is, for me, Instagram is a portfolio. And I have to say, for anyone out there, like Vimeo, I really hate Vimeo. Not like as a brand, but I surprisingly, I just don't like using it. The algorithm, like when I use Vimeo, here's the thing. I think there's some really excellent content on Vimeo. I think it is just the algorithm for searching Vimeo for inspiration is very challenging because it doesn't pull from any sort of tags on the video, like themes. Usually videos on YouTube come with themes or tags, like things that the themes that this video has. But Vimeo doesn't operate that way. It specifically only allows you to use the algorithm for the name of the video.
Yeah.
So the name of the video has to have all the things that you're kind of searching for. So one, it's just not even possible. It's not possible to search any inspiration on Vimeo. And two, they try to push that it's a good like sort of review tool. But then this wonderful, amazing thing called Frame.io came out, and it just trumps Vimeo and is just so much better in every single way. Every single way. Frame.io is one of the best things that happened to our industry and for video sharing and for, getting client feedback. It's just amazing.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with you. So that kind of, it's a little bit jumping ahead of where I want to go. But exactly one of the questions I have is actually, what's your favorite software, or what are your favorite tools? Can be like your 3 favorite tools that you use for filmmaking. And then after that, tell me if there was one thing that could happen for filmmaking or B2B marketing as a tool, right? As either a digital or physical tool that you would use every day to better your overall workflow. What would that tool be and how would it work?
Okay. You just ask me one question at a time, because I already I know what I'm going to respond to the second one. I just need to make sure I
let's
get
talk.
the first
Let's
one.
talk about the first one first. So, what are your 3 favorite tools as a filmmaker, as a B2B marketing filmmaker? What are your 3 favorite tools that you use regularly?
Yeah. So my 3 favorite tools for video editing have to be DaVinci Resolve. That is where I do all my video editing, my cutting, color grading, things like that, sound effects. And I use After Effects for all of my animation. I think it's just easier to navigate and put things together in After Effects using layers versus using the node tree for animation in DaVinci Fusion. I spent most of my career editing in Premiere.
Okay.
And once I learned DaVinci, I just suddenly realized that I never want to go back to Premiere ever.
So you and I were recently talking about this, actually.
Yeah.
I came from Premiere to Final Cut to now DaVinci, and you've gone Premiere to DaVinci. Why do you hate Premiere now, and why will you never go back?
Okay, so DaVinci's just fun to edit in. The layers are big. They're easy to see. In Premiere, the layers tend to be really small. I know you can expand them, but it just feels like a very technically designed platform versus DaVinci, which is like kind of just designed to be enjoyable. It's like made by designers versus like engineers. There's a lot of tools in DaVinci that just are amazing. Color grading is probably just the most obvious and what everybody probably assumes. But no, I mean, there are tools in the color grading panel beyond just the way that you change the color. There are AI tracking windows that are just phenomenal. Like they do such a good job at tracking anything you put them on. And I've actually yet to seen it make a mistake on tracking.
Yeah.
It is that good. And that actually opens up a ton of possibilities, because now you're talking about like just tracking a person through a 10 to 15 second shot and making sure that their exposure is brighter than their entire background. You can do that, no problem.
Yeah.
Even if hair flips, or if they're jumping, or if they're skateboarding, like you name it, now you can do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible. And I think there's actually an automatic background selecting tool. So you can just edit the background if you wanted. And there's a lot of ways that DaVinci is catching up to Premiere. I just recently started using their text-based editing feature in DaVinci. So you can transcribe a sequence. You can actually transcribe a multicam sequence. So what that means is you can take 3 camera angles, 3 audio files, or as many as you want, and you can compress it into a single layer, and then you transcribe that layer. And so then when you're going through the transcript, you're pulling down certain lines that you want to build. Let's say you write a script and then you go into the transcript, you're just pulling those lines from the script. You're dropping down these layers in the order that you want the audio to play out. And then you're looking at your timeline, you see only one layer, but actually that one layer is a multicam clip. So it actually has every single camera angle kind of baked in, and you can switch it on command. And that's super helpful because I work with writers who do the interview cut downs for my
Okay.
videos. And, when I try to explain to them, oh, you need to keep A cam, B cam, C cam. They're like, what cam? I don't even know what that means. And I'm thinking, oh boy. But once we figured out this multicam thing, it's been amazing. And so
Yeah.
DaVinci Blackmagic as a brand, just very intentionally listens to its customers, very intentionally listens to the people who use their cameras and the feedback they have on those, to the people who use the software. And for anybody who doesn't know, DaVinci is a one-time payment, one
Yeah.
time, for about $300 or so. And you get all the updates for free, and you get a editing tool, a sound design tool, a animation tool, if you choose to learn it. It's interesting. And you get those all in one purchase, and a one-time purchase of $300 versus Premiere, which is a monthly payment. And if you stop doing that monthly payment, and if you only buy Premiere for a one-time purchase, you don't get any of the updates.
Yeah.
So that's just the
Yeah.
old way of doing.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's the old way versus new way, I guess.
Yeah. I used Premiere for about a year, I think, and then I edited about an hour and a half long video in Premiere. Loved it. I nailed it. I did a great job, right? I was really proud of myself. I went to go get a cup of coffee. I came back and there was all this jumbled text that said something about there was an error. And that's when I discovered Premiere Pro's lack of true autosave, even though it says it's saving it. And I basically never fired up Premiere again. I was like, I'm not doing this again. And that was my transition point. I think Premiere just doesn't improve enough in certain areas. They have great engineering in the AI department recently, like the auto cut features and things like that are really great. Saves people a lot of times on some of those monotonous tasks, right? But ridiculous for like an average editor. It's crazy to edit something on that.
But I mean, DaVinci has the AutoCAD tool as well.
It does, yeah.
So everything that Premiere
Which
has,
is great.
DaVinci also has.
Yeah.
And it's just
Everything
more
but
fun.
better.
It's more fun to work in. It's like more colorful, it's spaced out. I don't know. I get energized when I go in for an edit in DaVinci. If I'm being honest, like I'm just tired of Premiere. But I do have a crash and lose everything story. I can't tell you how many times in Premiere I've literally lost a full day of work where the autosaves didn't save correctly, or maybe I just forgot to like autosave every 2 hours or 1 hour versus every. I don't know. But I have lost a full day. I was recently on a trip. After Effects has a similar issue, and I was just on a trip last week, and I lost 4 hours of animation work.
Oh no.
And this was for an event where what I was working on was supposed to go up on a screen the next day. And
oh my gosh.
luckily, I have muscle memory. I'm like, okay, I remember all the numbers. I remember all the, but it was just, it was hard to swallow.
Yeah, it's just painful when it happens. After Effects used to back in, probably 2011 or something. I was making a Star Wars movie, like short film, just for fun, right? Well, it was actually for a competition. But anyway, used After Effects, right? And they had this amazingly terrible feature where if you zoomed in and then zoomed out, right? So you zoom in to kind of fine tune where your lightsaber is going or something, right? When you zoom out, it would aggressively just like zoom all the way out and you'd lose everything. After Effects would crash. And I kept, like when you get in the zone of editing, you kind of forget about some of these things. I would forget and I would do it and I would go to zoom out and I would lose everything. And I was like, oh, I got to stop doing that. And it happened to me like 8 times, but there was no alternative at the time to, edit in or anything else. So we live in an amazing world where now there's so many options where we can kind of avoid those things. Okay, I want to keep moving so we don't get cut on time here. So I want to talk a little bit about motivation. We'll get back to technology and some of those things in a minute here. I want to talk a little bit about motivation. What is it that drives you, right? The biggest thing in the business world, whether it be sales, marketing, management, any of those things, right? The biggest thing in the business world is to have something to drive you, something to motivate you. What gets you out of bed every day? Why do you, go to work on the hard days, on the days where maybe your After Effects just crashed and you're re-editing something for the 100th time or something, right? What is it that keeps you going, keeps you driven, makes you say, I'm not quitting, I'm not throwing in the towel just because it's not easy? What is it that drives you?
Something that really motivates me every single day is just another chance to do something profoundly creative. And I think it's just me, from my perspective. I love brainstorming. I love putting together mood boards. I love just working with a team and saying, like, finding ways to amplify what we're currently doing to make it even more creative. I work on a different project every single week, it feels like. And I think I always sit down and I think, like, I'm going to make something super freaking cool right now. And I just try to push myself to do that. And, I don't always see myself as being the person at the keyboard doing what I'm doing. I think all us filmmakers kind of have to think about our future as well. Like we're not always going to be holding a camera. We're not always going to be lugging 350 pounds of gear through, Midway Airport. Because I do that on every shoot. And maybe that's another podcast episode, is traveling for film. Yeah. That's I have a lot of tips and tricks. But I think as filmmakers, we have to think about, like, how do we want to serve the world through our skills, through our talents, beyond just being in the behind the camera. And I think it's our ideas. I think it's our vision, our approach to kind of bringing creativity to the world, to marketing. When I sit down and do B2B work, I feel this every single day, because B2B can be extremely dry and very technical. And if I don't push myself to be creative, like, you could easily just make really boring videos if you didn't want to try. But I every day I see it as an opportunity to kind of, like, fertilize the soil to do something that's never been done. B2B definitely has that kind of landscape where a lot of things haven't been done yet for B2B.
Yeah.
So, it's just exciting every day to kind of get down and problem solve, and be creative.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's really inspiring. I think there's a lot of people that we talked about this a little bit earlier, right? The monotony, right? You do the same thing 100 times and pretty soon you hate it, right? You shoot a wedding the first time, you're like, oh, this is awesome. You shoot a wedding 3 days in a row for a whole weekend and you're like, wow, I hate this. I can't come up with a new original idea. And it's that creativity that keeps things fresh and keeps things interesting. So yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there.
Can I speak to that really quick?
Absolutely.
But also, like, if you find yourself saying, like, I'm doing the same thing over and over, like, are you really meant to be doing that one particular thing for the rest of your career? Or is it time to kind of change things up? Apply your skill to something different, like within film. Like make films for a different, we call it vertical, but like a different market. You know?
Yeah.
I'm trying to, like what you're saying, Joe, like some people just get bored or unmotivated. And I think that's just a good sign to kind of change things up, to do something different.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, because if you're not feeling challenged, if you're not feeling creatively driven, there's something wrong, right? And then you have to figure out what it is and where your creative passions lie. Where your, like you were talking, your gifts, right? Where those naturally occurring gifts apply, and what can you do with those, right?
Yeah, and I heard someone say that, like your purpose, or at least figuring out what you're made to do, is in between what you're good at, what you love, and how you want to serve the world. And your purpose is kind of like somewhere in between those three things, and where those three things meet and collide and overlap.
Yeah. So you actually touched on something right there that I wanted to talk to you about, and that is, right, we have creatives, right? We have business people. We have, you name it, that are maybe listening to this, marketing people. What is it, too, that's so important? And this kind of plays into a lot of, like, your drive, right? A lot of motivational speakers will talk about this. It's not about making money. It's not about getting your next big project funded. It's not about who's going to, allow you to make this project or whatever, right? It's about service. It's about serving the community, about serving the world, right? And so many people get lost in, I think making money is the biggest one that a lot of people get lost in, right? I'm not making money doing this, or I'm making so much money doing this, but I absolutely hate it, right? So what is it that's so important about service that actually helps more with motivation, with, let's say, a salesperson is listening to this, right? With selling to a customer, why is it service that trumps everything else?
I think service is ultimately what you're going for, right? Like that's the point of a video, is to serve the client in some way, is to kind of help them bring their idea or sell their service or product or something, or to tell a story. I think that's like what ultimately drives us, or drives me as a filmmaker, and that's why you just can't get caught up on the gear so much. A lot of people get caught up on that early on, and they kind of forget to kind of hone the reason why they're doing it in the first place. And then they might get to this point in their life where they're like, why was I doing this? But like figuring out your why is so important early on. It's so important right away. And a lot of us discover that like our why is to serve, is the service.
Yeah. Yeah. The bigger the why, the bigger the try, right? That's what I always learned. And I want to touch on that in a second. Okay. So one more thing I want to get to here is why marketing? Why not movies for you, right? You did short films. You did some of those different things. You're in that sphere. Obviously, tons of creativity in both. Nothing wrong with either journey. But for someone who maybe doesn't know what they want yet, right? Why marketing? What stood out to you in marketing that's different than movies, that's better than movies? What drew you there?
Right. Yeah. Growing up in LA or near LA, I always wanted to do movies. I studied a lot of directors very closely. I watched every single one of Spielberg's works, all of his movies, even from his earliest like TV movies up to his most recent. And I was just obsessed. Like, if you were to ask me, like, can you shot list a movie based on this concept, I'd be like, yep, boom, 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 boom. I could figure it all out. I could figure out the angles. I could figure out why those angles. I could figure out like the sort of the poetry in the shots and things like that. And I felt like every bone in my body was made for movies. The way I thought, the way that I just, or what I was good at. But I kind of felt like growing up near LA, I did get to see firsthand what that lifestyle was like. It was 2 years of no money, just doing free work. It was just working constantly and, working for the union. And I don't know. I just like me being Catholic, I really wanted to start a family young. And when thinking about doing movies and growing a family, it just like the two things just could not exist at the same time. And so it's kind of like a in a way, single person, or at least, couples that don't have children, that's kind of like what makes up a lot of people in that industry. And living in LA is rough. I mean, they just had a humongous fire, but it's also like crazy expensive. I remember going to a restaurant at midnight. It was like this breakfast place, really, really, really good food, by the way. And all the waiters were actors, just waiting, just hoping for a break, And if you're out there, like every single person's into film, like everyone. It is just the industry out there. And so kind of growing up around that and seeing the film industry and like really tasting what that life was like and what it meant to live out there and like kind of do that grind. I don't know. I just could not commit to that lifestyle for the rest of my life. And marketing, I realized marketing was just a great option because I could take all of my film skills, my movie sort of creativity, and I could apply that to kind of fast-paced projects. Hold on, let me rephrase that. I could apply those skills that I had, in movie making and filming and etc. And I could bang out multiple videos per year versus like working on a major piece, one piece that goes maybe over the course of a year or two. It was like you had a new challenge every single week or every month to kind of like approach a new film project. So in terms of like flexing your creative muscles, it was like marketing is the place you want to be if that's how you feel.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. It's always interesting to see how people get into the industries they're in, and especially you coming from LA, you have a very unique perspective compared to, a lot of people all around the country who maybe want to get into film, but don't really know where to start or how to do it. I always tell people, right, marketing is the best way to cut your teeth. If you're not going to go to film school and get into a union and just kind of be a PA on sets for years, right? Just trying to catch your break. Marketing is a great tool. You get to flex your creativity. You get to build out a show reel, and you get paid the entire time while you're doing it.
Yeah, and you can always come back, and you can always do movies.
Exactly. Yeah, and some great storytellers are in marketing. I've met some of the most creative people in marketing, and it's amazing. Okay, so you kind of touched on Steven Spielberg a little bit. Who's your biggest inspiration? Maybe in film, maybe not in film. Who's your biggest inspiration and why?
Who's my biggest inspiration? That's so hard to answer these days just because like film has, if someone were to ask me who my biggest inspiration is, I think it's hard to answer that question because me personally, I just love and appreciate so many different approaches to filmmaking. When you're thinking about directors, like there's just the classic Hollywood movie that Spielberg can offer. Wes Anderson is this like out of this world, like a way to actually feel like you're watching a storybook. And there's Tarantino with just this amazing like ability to have this super punchy style that
Yeah.
is just so entertaining to watch, and the way he builds tension in a scene, where like nobody's saying anything against each other and yet they're saying everything. There's so many like indie filmmakers that just push the aesthetic beauty of film, and documentary filmmakers, and like Sandwich Media, which is this like amazing studio that came on, and they do commercials that are just all humor, and a lot of them use their own team. So like I just look up to so many people, and I look up, and I appreciate so many different ways to do film, so many different ways to do marketing, so many different ways to do movies and storytelling. It's just hard to say who my biggest inspiration is, at least for
Yeah.
filmmaking.
Yeah. No, I share that sentiment. I don't know how I would answer my own questions on a lot of these, but that one particularly would be very hard, right? There's a lot of strong people in the industry that we're in, which is amazing. Okay, so talking a little bit about success and systems, and how people can find success, right? You've obviously found success in B2B marketing through video, right? What are some systems you've developed to automate your success? I was listening to another podcast a couple days ago on a run, and this guy said something really interesting, and it was, if you can't leave what you do for a month and it runs smoothly without you, you haven't automated your success, which I found really interesting because at least for me, owning my own agency and doing everything myself, right? You end up with this complex of how to hire people to do things, to be successful, to be good at what they're doing when you're not there overseeing it, right? And you can't oversee every project. You grow to a point when you can't do it, right? And you're always on your phone, talking to people, emailing, texting, whatever, trying to stay in touch, trying to stay up on all the projects, make sure everything's managed well, all of that. And it takes you away from your life quite a bit. So what are some ways that you've automated your success to get better at your work-life balance?
Yeah, and I bring a different approach to this question, being, part of an agency, not running my own business, but like leading a team, helping lead a team at least. And for me, the way I answer that question is actually like, how do I achieve creative success? And have that automated, because there's a lot of times where you could just choose the easy way out. And so, for me, automating success in terms of creativity like means that I've developed a very neat process for approaching every single project that brings out the most creativity possible. So it's just having that methodology of like trying to understand the heart of a story, trying to, put together mood boards, trying to, I'm trying to think like specifically. I'll put it this way. Just having, it's important to just have a methodology for your creative process in order to kind of expect success on every project. Now, in terms of like business automation, obviously I don't have to necessarily worry about that, not owning my business. Right. But absolutely, like something that's really important is networking, knowing people, knowing a lot of people that do what you do. And this also helps for people who do own their own business. Like people, like, let's say you can't go on a shoot, you need to throw the project to someone else just to keep that project alive. Having a community of people that are filmmakers that do what you do, that kind of believe in the same level of quality that you do, or have a similar approach to filmmaking that you do, is so important.
Yeah.
Just being able to like bring people on to help the business stay afloat. And I know maybe there's tools for like automation tools for like answering emails and stuff, but like it's a different kind of automation. It's like,
Exactly.
when I can't be doing everything, I need someone I trust. And it honestly, it is hard to find people you trust, but giving people a chance is really important, And just
Yeah.
just make it happen. Just work with them. Just invite them to a project, and just building a community. There's nothing better.
Yeah. No, I agree. Just quick time check in here.
Yep.
We're a little bit over our hour. What time is your meeting at? 3?
3, so 14 minutes.
3. Okay. All right. Awesome. I'm going to try to cook through these last couple here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So something really big for not just filmmaking, right? But it does tie into filmmaking, which I find really interesting. I've always found this interesting. A huge tool for success in business is vision boards, right? So similarly to when you're building a story and you're trying to visualize your idea for someone else to see, or for yourself or whatever, right? You're trying to project a future image, correct? So for business, people use this for, what do I want to achieve this year, or what do I want to achieve in however many months? And it's a great way of goal setting. So do you have a vision board? Do you use this? Not as a creative, but in life, right? Do you have a vision board, and what does that vision board look like? I encourage everyone, if you don't have one, to get a vision board, for the reason that it helps drive you, helps give you goals, right? These are the things I want to achieve this year. There's a guy I know that had a house, a car, all these things on his vision board. And every day when he would wake up, he would look at his vision board. And it just helps kind of set your mind, okay, these are the things I want to achieve. Now you have a family, which is different, right? Maybe it's things for your family. What does your vision board look like?
Yeah, my vision board looks like having something that I own, business-wise, being able to, I need to think about this, because technically I don't. I do have things that I'm trying to get to, things that I'm trying to start.
If you could have a vision board, what would that be?
Yeah, I want to start my own company. I want to kind of take my crazy, creative, crazy mind, and I want to apply it to a lot of things, and fast. Like, I'm at this phase where I'm ready to kind of just creative brainstorm the world. And, I'm just looking for opportunities to do that. And let me see what else I would say is on my vision board. Like, got a family, got a house, got a car. Yeah, just looking. So on my vision board, I'm just always looking to kind of level up from where I am and kind of figure out where I'm going next. I feel like I've mastered a lot of, just the tactical skills, the hard skills for filmmaking. And I'm trying to use sorry. Kids
All
up.
good.
So I need to kind of wrap this up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll say, let me wrap this up. So I've kind of got all the sort of the hard technical skills that you need for filmmaking. And on my vision board, I'm just looking to kind of achieve whatever's next. Like, I'm open to what that means for my career, or what that means for sharing my talent, my skills, my crazy ideas with the world. So I think that means owning my own company.
That's awesome. I want to ask you more about that the next time I have you on here. I just have 2 more things for you here. I know we're running out of time. So As a dad, as a husband, right? How do you maintain a work-life balance, a strong work-life balance, to be there for your family as well as to be there for your clients or for your company that you're working for, right?
Yeah. I work from home. So I think that makes up a lot for all the traveling that I do for filmmaking. But I'm always there to kind of like, watch a kid while they sleep, while my wife goes out and like does grocery shopping or something like that. Working from home really helps kind of helps like soften that a bit. If I'm doing more work, I always make sure to do it like when everybody goes to sleep. So I kind of work from 10 or 11 until 12 or 1. And I know it's brutal, but sometimes it just needs to get done. And so,
Yeah.
but just like making sure that like family time is there is super important. I think a lot of people just kind of like, no, career first, like my dreams first, like all these things. And then, your family gets left in the dust. And I know that there's a lot of hurt out there and people in that boat right now. And it's a struggle because like right now everybody's just like fighting to survive.
Yeah.
That's what it feels
exactly.
like.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of people share that sentiment. And, for being someone with no kids, I only halfway understand that. But it's a struggle for sure, even without kids. So, having a full family and everything to take care of, that's a lot more.
I also wanted to quickly answer the technology question because there's something that I saw recently that really got me thinking. So I think you asked me earlier, like what sort of technology do you see like entering the film world?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay, so one thing that I imagine that's really gonna like make a splash in the film world is I saw people using like a rough version of the Apple Vision Pro on DaVinci Resolve. And if you connect it to the iPad, you can actually use your hands to do all the editing. And one thing that I always thought I wanted to do, like every time I'm editing on a keyboard, I'm like, why can't I just like take my hands and like just move it, like physically move it? I just want to use my hands like while I'm editing. It would be so cool in the future. And I think this is achievable to use the Apple Vision Pro and to be able to use your hands to actually like almost literally compose a film. To use your hands to move things, to layer things, to stack things. I mean, obviously, like maybe like adding effects is going to be like challenging with that, but like there needs to be a version of editing in the future that is more physical.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I saw some things with the Apple Vision Pro when it first launched. People were using it on Final Cut, DaVinci Resolve, things like that, and doing editing. And I almost bought it just to try that. Thank God I didn't, because I think my neck and my back are thanking me for not wearing 20 pounds of metal on the front of my face. But it's still amazing what they can do. And I can't wait to see the future of editing in some of those different mediums. I think a lot of things are moving towards that more virtual kind of sphere of things. And I think it'd be really cool if you could utilize your 10 digits that are already attached to do what the keyboard does for you. I agree. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So last question. Well, last point I have 8 questions in 60 seconds. Just fire off your answers as fast as you can.
Okay.
We're going to try to make it in 60 seconds. I will stopwatch you. I don't know if we'll actually make it, but
okay.
Prepare. Okay. Here we go. Number 1, what's the wildest thing that's ever happened to you on set?
Not much. It's been pretty ordinary.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I haven't had anything
You ever broken
crazy.
anything?
I haven't broken anything. I haven't dropped a camera. I mean, I've been a zombie on set, so like, I don't know. Let's say that's the craziest set experience I've had.
Okay. Do you believe in aliens?
I do.
You do? Okay. What's the most overused video trick?
I think the most overused video shot, can I put that in there
Yeah.
instead? Is when, the gladiator shot where people are like feeling the wheat or they're like putting their hand on the grass. I swear every time I see that shot, like I'm going to scream at the computer the next time I see it. Like I cannot do it anymore. And I know we're all guilty of it. You're out there. Whoever's listening, I know you've made one.
Everyone's at least seen it if they haven't done it.
Yeah.
All right. What's the what's the most expensive thing you've broken on set, but you've never broken anything on set?
Call me lucky.
Very lucky.
Oh, wait, I've broken a drone. That's okay, but everyone's done that.
Yeah, that's true. Drones break pretty easily. What's your biggest pet peeve?
Oh goodness. When I hire people to film and they gimbal every single shot in the exact same way for the entire video.
That's fair.
Weird response, but that's the thing.
What's one video trend that you love and one that you hate?
I don't like the video trend of like kind of making everything dark and gloomy. It's just personal preference, but like I worked at an agency and we kind of like tended to do the dark and gloomy single source lighting, like really, 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 really dark. And I've tried to combat that my whole career by making everything warm and bright and colorful.
Nice. Okay. What's the worst movie of all time in your opinion?
Oh, I can't answer that quickly. Because like some of the worst movies are actually the best to watch. Okay. Personal opinion time. Rogue One drove me crazy. It was one of the most beautiful Star Wars movies I've ever seen. And I personally thought it was the worst directing that I've ever seen.
Wow. Hot take.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I'll have to unpack that with you next time. All right. What is the best movie in your opinion?
Oh, gosh dang it. That's really hard to answer. I'll give you one movie. I really appreciate the movie Alien. I really appreciate it especially because they were working on such a small budget and they made something so amazing.
Nice. That's
the
amazing.
Original Alien. Yeah.
The first one.
The first one. Yep.
That's great. All right. Well, Matthew, we're out of time, but thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Thank you for your time, and thank you for sharing your insight with everyone. We will definitely be having you back to talk about more travel and all the rest of that stuff. But for now, thank you so much for coming on.
Awesome. Sounds good, Joe. Thank you so much, man.